Max Verstappen's Spanish Grand Prix meltdown was already dominating headlines, sparking fierce debate among fans, pundits, and even rival drivers. But just when the dust seemed to be settling, the FIA has dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the paddock. In a move that few saw coming, legendary steward and former F1 driver Derek Warwick has broken his silence. And his comments don't just validate the penalty, they redefine how the sport views Verstappen's actions. This isn't about politics, preferences, or rivalries. This is the FIA making a statement loud and clear. No matter how many titles you've won, no one is above the rules. Warwick, who's overseen some of the most contentious stewarding decisions in recent years, didn't mince his words. He labelled Verstappen's move on Russell as absolutely wrong and insisted the 10-second penalty was not only fair, but the perfect response. And that has left many fans, and even Verstappen himself, completely stunned. Because this wasn't a vague response behind closed doors. This was a respected official publicly confirming that the reigning world champion crossed the line. What makes this even more significant is the context. Verstappen is no stranger to aggressive racing, but this time, it wasn't about fighting for position. It was about defying a team order, pushing a rival off track, and doing so in the middle of a title fight that's slipping further out of Red Bull's grasp. And now, the FIA has laid down the law in a way we haven't seen in years. So if you thought the drama in Barcelona was over, think again. The fallout is only just beginning. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end. Because what Derek Warwick just revealed doesn't just impact Verstappen. It could reshape the future of how Formula One handles its fiercest competitors. What makes this moment so pivotal in the 2025 Formula One season is not just the penalty itself, but the wider ramifications it unleashes within the paddock and beyond. For years, Max Verstappen has operated on the very edge of racing legality, flirting with the fine line between brilliance and chaos. It's that edge that has won him 4 world championships. It's that edge that has terrified his rivals and left team bosses speechless. But in Barcelona, that edge may have finally become a cliff, and Verstappen, for all his confidence, may have taken one step too far. The significance of Derek Warwick's comments isn't just in the fact that they exist, but in the timing and tone with which they were delivered. Warwick is no media provocateur. He doesn't chase headlines or pander to fan outrage. When someone like him speaks, the paddock listens. He could have easily hidden behind FIA protocol, offering a carefully worded, neutral statement, but instead, he told the truth. A truth that Verstappen and Red Bull perhaps weren't prepared to hear. That the penalty was not only justified, but necessary. This adds an entirely new layer of pressure to a driver who's already facing questions about his future, his temperament, and his relationship with a team that looks increasingly unsure of itself. We're watching the unravelling of an aura. Verstappen has been dominant not just because of the machinery underneath him, but because of the psychological warfare he wages with his competitors. They yield not just out of respect, but out of fear. But how do you keep that aura intact when stewards, team bosses, and even legends of the sport start questioning your judgment? There is also a strategic layer to this drama. The tension surrounding Red Bull isn't just personal or emotional, it's deeply technical. Their car, once the benchmark of stability and pace, now appears vulnerable. The Spanish Grand Prix exposed glaring weaknesses in tyre degradation, race management, and driver harmony. It was a weekend that peeled back the curtain on a team in turmoil, and Verstappen's penalty was the climax, not the beginning. Warwick's decision to stand by the steward's call also has massive implications for how the FIA will be perceived moving forward. For too long, fans and insiders alike have accused the governing body of inconsistency, of favouritism, of letting the sport's biggest stars off the hook. But this was a moment of resolve, a moment that says no driver is untouchable. And if they were willing to draw that line with Verstappen, it sends a ripple effect across the entire grid. Everyone is accountable now. Everyone is vulnerable to the rules. This isn't just about the past, it's a warning about the future. The races ahead will test Verstappen in ways he hasn't been tested since his early years. The mental pressure, the scrutiny, the expectations. They're all compounding. A single mistake could see him banned. A single moment of defiance could alter the trajectory of the championship. And with rivals like Piastri, Leclerc and Norris capitalising on every opportunity, the cost of failure has never been higher. And then there's the internal Red Bull dilemma. How do you manage a driver who refuses to be managed? How do you rein in a champion whose instincts have brought you glory, but now threaten your reputation? That's the puzzle facing Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. They built a monster. Now they have to tame it, without breaking it. Every second of every race from here on out will be a character test. Not just for Verstappen, but for Red Bull as an organisation. Can they stay disciplined? Can they rebuild trust? Can they operate like champions under fire? Or will the cracks widen until they shatter? And don't be fooled, the other teams are circling. Every controversy, every penalty, every public fallout is blood in the water. Teams like McLaren and Ferrari see a wounded giant, and they're accelerating. The psychological advantage Red Bull once enjoyed is evaporating. And in Formula One, perception is everything, so stay with us. Because what's coming next in this Formula One season won't just determine who lifts the trophy at the end of 2025. It will shape how we remember some of the most iconic figures in the sport. Max Verstappen is no longer simply racing for points. He's racing to defend a legacy. A legacy built on dominance, fearlessness, and a refusal to back down. But now, with the FIA making their stance crystal clear, the margin for error has all but vanished. The next few circuits on the calendar, Montreal, Spielberg, Silverstone, are unforgiving. They reward brilliance and punish hesitation. And as the pressure mounts, the spotlight on Verstappen will only grow hotter. If he manages to keep his cool, find his rhythm, and strike back with the kind of performances that made him a four-time world champion, then this moment of adversity might just become the catalyst for one of the greatest comebacks in modern F1 history. But if he wavers, even slightly, if the Red Bull camp splinters, if strategic doubts creep in, or if frustration once again overrides judgment, then the consequences could be catastrophic. This isn't just about a race ban or a lost title, it's about control, identity, and whether Verstappen and Red Bull can maintain their grip on a sport that's changing faster than ever. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because no matter what side of the debate you're on, you won't want to miss what happens next. The pressure is rising, the cracks are starting to show, and the fight for Formula One supremacy is entering its most explosive chapter yet. Stay with us, because this story is only just beginning.